Heyo, Eli here, back for a collection update. I swear to God, someday I need to think of like a better term for that. I feel like it's so fucking boring. Collection update. Everyone says it. It's just kind of like not. I don't know. It's not exciting anymore. I don't know if it ever was, but anyways, we just got a stack of CDs I've kind of picked up at over the last couple weeks at one of my local shops. Pretty much just cheap shit. Nothing. No grails or anything like that. Just random shit that I've grabbed. I've also got a movie here, if anyone cares about that. Now, this is a movie that I had been waiting and waiting and waiting for. I'd almost been counting the days for it to come out, and I won't go into like detail about about it. Maybe I'll make a separate video for that. I'm not so sure I'm a good movie reviewer, so if I'm gonna do if I'm gonna like solely review anything, I want to give it 100% of my efforts. I don't want to just lazily half-ass it. So that's why I've really never done any reviews on anything so far, though it is something I want to do in the future. But anyways, movie in question, Color Out of Space, directed by Richard Stanley, and taken from the H.P. Lovecraft short story. I had been waiting for this one forever. I'm a massive, as are a lot of you, I'm a massive H.P. Lovecraft fan, and I've always wanted there to be more movies, based on his stories, and there really aren't very many. So whenever somebody announces that they're going to do one, I'm just excited as fuck. Did I show the back? Not sure if I did. So I've watched this twice, and it definitely, I definitely like it. It kind of, I guess, I don't know. I kind of expected a little bit more, to be honest, which isn't real like me. I don't usually have high expectations for anything, but I guess I did have somewhat high expectations for this, and I think it could have been better, but there's definitely some cool parts. Anyways, like I said, I don't want to go into much detail about it, but I didn't know it was produced by Elijah Wood. That's crazy. But yeah, it is a good movie. I'm not trying to deter anyone from watching it. Just don't set your expectations too high. But what I am excited for is Richard Stanley is very close to getting the green light to direct 2 more movies based on Lovecraft stories. One of them being the Dunwich Horror, which is probably my favorite Lovecraft story ever. And the other one, I don't know if he's announced that, but very excited. That was some of the best news I've gotten in a long time. But yeah, check out Color Out of Space. If you have, let me know what you think. I'd love to talk about it. And yeah, the rest is music, so all CDs, and we'll just go on to that. I think I got like 10 CDs. This is a weird pick for me. This is probably not something you expected. It's not even really something I expected, to be honest, as I've never really been a big fan of this band. But we got Afterburner by ZZ Top. This is their 1985 album. I think it follows Eliminator, if I'm not mistaken, which was arguably their biggest album as far as like album sales and stuff like that. They're most popular, I guess you could say. And from what I understand, and they pretty much just took the Eliminator formula and threw some synthesizers in there because it was 1985. And to be honest, that's why I bought this album. I work with a dude who's a little bit older than me, so he's into a little bit more, like 70s shit than I am. And so he's been playing a lot of like 70s rock for me to listen to at work. And a lot of stuff that I overlooked just because I didn't grow up in the 70s and just had no interest. I grew up on 70s rock, don't get me wrong, but I never had any interest in ZZ Top. But he was playing some shit off this album, and I really liked it. I really liked, the ZZ Top formula, which is pretty much unchanged for like 50 years, with the synthesizers, which in 1985 when it came out, it was probably a disappointment for a lot of people, but I fucking love synthesizers. Just kind of like a lot of people didn't like the Rush shit once, Geddy Lee started adding tons of keyboards, and that's some of my favorite Rush stuff. So I went out and grabbed this album. I got it real cheap, I think $3 or $4. And like I said, I like the songs that he played for me off this album. Whether or not it can impress me, as an album on its own, we'll see. But yeah, I got it cheap enough to not really have to worry about that. Here's another Dollar Bin CD that I got. I've never heard of this band at all. The only reason I grabbed it is because it came out on Sub Pop Records. Was produced by Jack Endino. I grew up liking a lot of that grunge stuff, that Seattle grunge stuff. So I mean, I don't know when this came out, if it was 90s or if it was last year. I have no idea. But like I said, it was $1 and I grabbed it. The band is called 10 Minute Warning. Album is, I think it's self-titled. So yeah, that's all I know about it. Band called 10 Minute Warning, came out on Sub Pop Records, and I chanced it for $1. Probably, most likely I won't like it, but we'll see. You never know. I also picked up, kind of continuing to flesh out my Cradle of Filth collection. I know half of you are probably going to hate me for liking this band, but I do. This was the band that got me into black metal, so I still like them. I don't think everything they've done is good, but I think a lot of what they've done is good. So this is their 2010 album, Darkly Darkly Venus Aversa. Remember this one coming out? I just never ended up grabbing it. It is a 2-disc. I think it's got a live set. Oh no, it does not have a live set. It has like some bonus tracks on the second CD. So there you go. One of those big ass clunky Nuclear Blast digipacks. I have heard this album. I don't remember when. Maybe when it came out, or maybe after that. But I never owned it, so I didn't give it proper attention. So I can't really elaborate on it all. I remember it sounding pretty decent. Not as good as their last 2 albums, but I could be wrong about that. So looking forward to giving it more spins. Now here's a huge disappointment for me. Holy fuck. This album is not hard to find, but I've always wanted to own it, and for some reason I never have owned it. I think this is possibly their best material ever. And honestly, I know this is going to ruffle some feathers, but I think this is some of the better black metal ever to be made. Sorry. You don't have to agree with that. It doesn't matter. I'm not saying it's the best. I'm just saying I think it's phenomenal. And that is the, 96 EP from Cradle of Filth, Vampire. That's really as much elaboration as you need from me. I think it is on par with their first album, and it might even be stronger. And it's just some phenomenal black metal. Where the disappointment comes in is where they gave me the wrong fucking CD. It was just funny because I saw the CD in there and I was like, man, that looks familiar. Well, the reason it looks familiar is because this is not the Vampire CD. This is the, god damn it, an EP from the later 2000s that they did. Maybe 2005. I can't remember what it's called. But that's what this is. So basically, some dude sold his Cradle of Filth collection or whatever to this store, and he obviously had some of them mixed up. So I'm not even going to bring it back because they didn't have they didn't have the CD that this would have belonged to. If they did, maybe I'd buy that, and maybe that has the Vampire CD in there, but they didn't have it. So either someone else bought it, or they're just gone forever. So anyways, I have the Vampire, album that I've always wanted. I just don't have the CD. I guess I'll just burn myself a copy, and that'll hold me over until I find a better copy someday. Like I said, it's not rare. It's not hard to come by. I've had many chances in the past to buy it, and I just never have. But I do like it a lot. So that's happened to me before too. At music stores, it pisses me off. I mean, I can see why it would happen. I mean, the guy that's is working there, you can't expect him to catch. Basically, what they do is they just make sure there's a disc in the case. That's all they do. They don't go out of their way to try to make sure it's the right one. But next, we have a couple. These are the first two 2020 releases I've actually bought. Surprisingly, but not really surprisingly. That's just how it goes for me sometimes. I haven't exactly been keeping like a close eye on new releases this year. And to be honest, I'm not really worried about it. I've been kind of taking a step back and listening to just a lot of older stuff out of my collection, or stuff from the last few years that I didn't give enough attention to, and just going with the flow. If there are good releases that come out this year, hopefully I will. Hopefully I'll pay enough attention at least to have those on my radar. But other than that, I'm really not worrying about it. So we have the newest album from France's Necro Wretch with The Ones from Hell. Came out on Season of Mist. Not the best cover art. I've always thought their cover art was pretty cool, but this is the first time where I actually think it's kind of lame. I don't know. Usually it's like some kind of like ancient, Lovecraft type monster shit that's just really cool to look at, and I don't know. This is just some kind of like Japanese type art. Totally not what they usually do. I don't think it's anywhere near as cool, but whatever. The album is good. It sounds like Necro Wretch. I've only given it one listen, but it's if you've never heard Necro Wretch, they are a Black Death metal band out of France, which is kind of cool because they're playing a type of music that France is definitely not known for. I've heard very few bands out of France that sound that way, but it's good stuff. I have their last like 2 or 3 albums, and I've always enjoyed them. So I tend to try to pick up shit when they put it out. This next one is a very much an oddball for me. I used to like this band like 15 years ago, and I haven't listened to them since. And I had a couple of their albums that I got rid of also years ago, and surprise, surprise, I wish I hadn't. But it'll be cool to. I haven't heard anything from this band for probably 10 years, so it'll be cool to catch up and see what they're doing nowadays. But yeah, I have the newest album from Today Is the Day. No Good to Anyone, it's called. Came out on The End Records, which I haven't heard of. I didn't even know The End Records were still kicking. I feel like I never see their shit anymore. What really drew me in, though, to be honest, was the Jeff Whitehead cover art. I'm just, for some reason, I'm a sucker for that guy's art. It just always really grabs me, and I just love it. He's got a unique style, and there's just something about it. If you want to get a closer look, very cool. If you don't know who Today Is the Day are, I wouldn't even really know how to describe them, to be honest. I'm just, I know so little about this kind of music. I've heard people call them noise rock. But anyways, Steve Austin is the main man from the band. He does a lot of producing, a lot of production work. Today Is the Day has been around at least, since the mid-90s? Maybe longer than that. He's had a lot of band members come and go, kind of like a revolving door situation, it seems like. Correct me if I'm wrong. But that's what I've always noticed, just almost different band members on every album. And a lot of the albums, he doesn't really have like a sound from what I can tell that is consistent from album to album. I feel like they all really sound very different. But yeah, I've seen people say noise rock with hints of grindcore. I've seen all kinds of terms. So I don't know. If anyone out there's a big Today Is the Day fan, you can elaborate on that and correct me and tell me what the band is to you, because I'm kind of at a loss for words. And to add this to one of the CDs I had in my last update, it's been cool finding more shit from this band, and I think now I have all their good stuff, so I guess I don't need to keep going. But Gorefest, Rise to Ruin, despite that cover art, that lame ass cover art, that is fucking awful. This album is really good. Came out in 2007 on Candlelight, and I think honestly this is one of their best albums. Once again, Gorefest, death metal band from the Netherlands. They've been around forever. I don't think they're active now, but they were around since I think it was the late 80s, and just really good death metal. Next, we have the 2 albums. I think this is the only 2 albums the band ever had. Correct me if I'm wrong. Yet again, Acid Bath, When the Kite String Pops. I had this album years ago and got rid of it. I wasn't exactly looking to pick it up again, but I found it really cheap. It was used, so this is the 2004 remastered version. Always with cool, John Wayne Gacy artwork. Acid Bath are a band out of Louisiana, with dudes from let's see, what's his name? They got Sammy from Goat Horror, Jimmy Bauer, I think. Jimmy Bauer on drums, I think. No, Jimmy Kyle. Jimmy Kyle, I think he was in Crowbar at one point. And then they got Dax Riggs on vocals. Dax Riggs, who got his start in this band, but he went on to do, he's done a bunch of solo records, and some, I've only heard very little of it, but actually it's pretty cool stuff. Just kind of like blues rock. He's got a great voice, dude can really sing, but Acid Bath were kind of like a, I don't even know, they're one of those bands that you really just can't give them like a one genre tag. They played a combination of like doom with sludge and maybe other various types of metal. I've heard people say there's a little death metal in there, and not really. There are parts where Dax Riggs he'll do like a sort of death metal growl, but I wouldn't really say there's much death metal in there. More like doom sludge, but a very unique take. If you were gonna label them as like a doom or a sludge band, they're very unique, even for those two genres. So nothing that I know of really sounds like Acid Bath at all. So very unique band. Not everyone loves them. A lot of people do. And now I have their other album. Like I said, I've only ever been aware of them having 2 albums. If they have more than that, I just completely did not know about that. But this is their second album. Yeah, I believe their second album, with Pagan Terrorism Tactics, with cover art from Jack Kevorkian. And this is the 2010 re-release. There you have it. They both came out on a label called Rotten Records, which is not a label I'm familiar with. So yeah. Anyway, if you like doom or sludge, check out Acid Bath if you've never heard them. If you're not a big doom or sludge guy, they might not be your cup of tea, but I think they're really unique, so maybe check them out regardless. And last but not least, a CD that I fucking stepped on shortly after buying it, but it's still salvageable. I only mostly fucked up the case, but we have WFO from Overkill. This is an album that came out in the 90s. What year did this come out? 94. So despite it coming out in 94, you're probably thinking like, oh shit, thrash metal in 94. It's actually pretty good. I think it has, there are some songs on here that they have in their live rotation actually, like, or at least they have in the past, like Where It Hurts, and I think Fast Junkie. But I think it's a pretty good album. It's, despite it coming out in 94, it's not a full-on Pantera worship. There is a little bit of groove in there, I guess you could say, but it's still very much a thrash metal album. And it's not the best of their stuff, but it's not the worst either. I actually like this more than most of what they've been doing lately, which those albums really haven't been terrible either, but I would prefer this album over probably their last like 2 or 3 albums at least. So yeah, I think it's a killer album. It may not be as good as Taking Over or Feel the Fire, but it's still pretty damn good. So there's really not a lot to complain there about. Anyways, we've been listening to Destroyer 666 here in the background, and that's all I got for now. I have a couple cool videos planned for the hopefully near future. Something, trying something a little different. Should be sort of fun. So as always, thanks for stopping by. We'll talk soon. Cheers.